While dwelling into the first layer of the abyss to search for relics, Riko and his partner Nat become separated, spotting a beastly serpent called the Crimson Splitjaw nearby. Riko uses her red whistle to draw its attention in order to save Nat from being eaten. Despite Riko getting cornered by the Crimson Splitjaw to the point of almost becoming devoured, the Crimson Splitjaw is suddenly chased off by a powerful energy blast. Riko traces the source of the energy blast back to the robot boy rendered unconscious. Riko and Nat carry the robot boy back to their home at Belchero Orphanage, stashing him away in a shed. Later, the director makes a clear statement to the orphans that the relics generate income from the orphanage, while instructor Jiro tells Riko that she is not ready to be assigned into the lower levels of the abyss at her current level. At night time, with the help of her friends, Riko is able to revive the robot boy, who seems to be amnesiac. Riko names the robot boy Reg and escapes from Jiro's watchful eye, taking Reg outside during sunrise to show him the large city of Orth, which sits atop the abyss. Believing that Reg came from the bottom of the abyss, Riko, Nat, Shiji, and Kyui fail to find the robot boy within the illustrated compilation of recovered relics, fearing that Reg might be taken away and dismantled if he was ever found out. The others disguise him as a regular orphan and discreetly arrange his enrollment with Jiro in the orphanage, where he begins his rank training as a bell. 2 months later, Habolg, a black whistle cave raider, returns from his expedition in the second layer of the abyss with a white whistle owned by Riko's mother, Liza, as well as a sealed document. As a festival is celebrated for the return of Liza's white whistle, Jiro tells Riko that she was born in the abyss, in which Liza used a rare relic called the curse-repelling vessel to return Riko safely to the surface before searching for the legendary relic called the Unheard Bell. Riko is then given Liza's white whistle and is allowed to view the sealed document, which reveals a drawing of Reg and a note from Liza saying that she is waiting at the bottom of the abyss. Riko decides to descend into the abyss in order to find Liza. However, Nat openly opposes this idea, believing that Riko will never return to the surface by doing so. When Reg does his first dwell as a red whistle with Nat into the first layer to search for relics on the next day, Reg believes that he will find answers to his own identity and lost memories in the abyss by joining Riko. While Riko and Reg plan to sneak out of the orphanage before daybreak, Shigi gives them a map of the abyss, containing all 6 known layers. Riko is angered when Nat points out that Liza most likely died a long time ago, since it would be impossible for even a white whistle to survive in the abyss for 10 years. When Nat later goes missing, Reg looks for him in Kyuki's room. After seemingly bluffing a suspicious Jiro, Reg reunites with Riko and Shigi outside. They are met by Nat, who regrets previously saying such hurtful things. Nat agrees to guide them to the Wharf Quarter, a secret entry point into the abyss. After saying their goodbyes, Riko and Reg depart from their journey. Riko and Reg manage to descend deep down into the first layer, the edge of the abyss. After eating freshly caught demon fish for breakfast, Riko loses her star compass, a relic previously recovered, as it drops down a waterfall. Reg then shows Riko a letter that was slipped into his backpack. It contains a copy of vital information about the abyss, as well as a note from Jiro warning them that they will be pursued at dawn. Riko concludes that they will not be pursued if they can reach the second layer. As Riko and Reg escape the territory of the Silk Fang, a large insect, they are intercepted by Habolg. He was requested by Nat and Shigi to escort Riko and Reg to the Seeker Camp in the second layer. However, Riko kindly declines the offer since she and Reg want to reach the Seeker Camp on their own. Habolg informs Riko and Reg that the guardian of the Seeker Camp is Ozin, a white whistle who helped Liza transport the infant Riko to the surface, though warning them to be wary of Ozin before saying his farewells. Riko and Reg then reach the second layer, the Forest of Temptation. As Riko and Reg proceed through the Forest of Temptation, they encounter a large carnivorous bird called the Corpse Weeper, which can mimic the cries of help from its prey when Riko is captured by another Corpse Weeper and flown to the nest to be fed to its chicks. Reg desperately activates an incendiary cannon within his hand that destroys the Corpse Weeper and a large swath of the surrounding landscape. After being saved, Riko is greatly impressed with Reg's incendiary cannon and dubs it the Incinerator. However, Reg passes out from the strain of using the weapon. After Reg wakes up, Riko reveals that she lost her notebook, which contains all her writings during her time in the abyss. After sharing some delicious meat of the Corpse Weeper that was left behind, Riko and Reg proceed to the Inverted Forest, found in the lower area of the Forest of Temptation. They're soon chased off by several red-eyed gibbons called Inbios, which are very territorial. Riko and Reg then approach the Seeker Camp, which was originally built as a stopover point for cave raiders. When Reg tries to use his extendable arm to gain entry, Ozin seizes hold of Reg's extendable arm instead. Ozen releases Reg's extendable arm and lowers a gondola, allowing Riko and Reg inside the Seeker camp. After finally meeting Ozen and her apprentice Maruk, Riko thanks Ozen for carrying her to the surface long ago, though Ozen amusingly points out that she had considered abandoning Riko many times. Ozen lends blue whistles to Riko and Reg in exchange for Liza's white whistle. Riko and Reg quickly befriend Maruk, who became a blue whistle at a young age due to being a direct apprentice of Ozen. After Riko is fascinated by old relics stowed away, Maruk wishes that Riko and Reg can stay a bit longer so they can dwell together. However, Riko reluctantly declines since her mission is to find Liza at the bottom of the abyss. That night, Riko encounters a strange creature while looking at the bathroom, having to flee back to her bedroom. The next morning, Ozen takes Riko and Reg to her private chamber. Along the way, Ozen says that Liza is dead, since she recovered the letter from a grave in the 4th layer, also claiming that the note was not handwritten by Liza. Once inside the chamber, Riko sees the curse-repelling vessel. Ozen reveals that the curse-repelling vessel has the power to temporarily revive the dead, in which Riko died from birth and was revived by the relic. The strange creature that Ozen had placed inside there earlier was just a lump of meat, returning to life before dying again a few hours later. An angry Reg begins attacking Ozen, but she remains unmoved and soon renders him unconscious from her superhuman strength. Reg is awakened by the subterranean bandits, Simred, Yelmi, and Zappo, thanks to Maruk calling them in. Ozen admits that she was testing Riko and Reg to surmise if they can survive in the abyss, concluding that they need training. She also reveals that the grave was in fact empty, implying that Liza may still be alive. A flashback shows when Ozen mentored Liza from a red whistle to a black whistle, following Reg's recovery. Ozen tasks Riko and Reg to survive in the outer edge of the inverted forest for 10 days, because it would leave Riko and Reg defenseless. Ozen suggests for Reg to use the incinerator as a last resort, since he would faint within minutes and remain unconscious for 2 hours. After Ozen leaves Riko and Reg to fend for themselves, the two quickly find aquatic insects called rohanas, which only live in clean water. After setting up camp, Riko and Reg spend the next 5 days struggling to capture an otoba, a large amphibious animal. After 10 days, Riko and Reg successfully complete their survival training and return to the Seeker camp. Ozen instructs Riko and Reg to avoid the other white whistles currently exploring the 5th layer. Ozen then notices that the note handwritten by Liza was done on a strong fabric that not even Ozen can tear apart. Another sign that Liza must be indeed alive. Ozen gives Riko a relic called the Blaze Reap, Liza's abnormally large pickaxe that was salvaged from the 4th layer, which can be sparingly used before breaking as an alternative to the incinerator. Ozen then shares the secret of the abyss, accessible only to the white whistles. Later on, Maruk and the subterranean bandits bid farewell to Riko and Reg. Ozen reminisces about the promise that she made to Liza long ago, which was to help Riko find Liza. Riko and Reg set off toward the 3rd layer, the Great Fault. Riko and Reg climb down the Great Fault using countless interlocking caverns to avoid the inhibiting Madokajaks, large aerial predators that are reptilian creatures with an insect-like appearance. However, they stumble into a den of Madokajak, which forces Reg to use the incinerator to kill it. Unfortunately, this attracts the attention of the Crimson Splitjaw, previously wounded by the incinerator. After narrowly escaping, Reg falls unconscious, leaving Riko to fend for herself. As a hungry Riko drags Reg along, she is lured in and swallowed by an Amakagame, a bulbous creature having to cut her way out of its stomach using a dagger. Riko then flees from a swarm of Neritantans, flat, rodent-like creatures, finding herself in a cave with an upward slope. As she heads up the slope, she starts experiencing vertigo and hallucinations, the curse of the 3rd layer. After reaching the top of the cavern, Riko realizes the importance of Reg as both her friend and protector. Reg awakens just as the Crimson Splitjaw returns, and he uses the Blaze Reap to chase it off. After setting up camp in the cavern, Riko and Reg can now see the 4th layer, the Goblets of Giants. Riko and Reg travel in the Goblets of Giants, a humid jungle filled with flat creepers, which are weaving giant concave discs. They are soon confronted by an orb piercer, a large porcupine-like animal. After Riko reveals that the orb piercer's quills can penetrate steel and are laced with poison, Riko and Reg try to escape. However, the orb piercer predicts their movements and halts them, knocking the Blaze Reap out of their grasp. The orb piercer even uses its quills to penetrate through a relic called the Sacred Umbrella, breaking Reg's defense, and one quill penetrates Riko's left hand, which injects lethal poison into her body. This forces Reg to escape with her by ascending, though Riko begins to bleed from every orifice, the curse of the 4th layer. Riko urges Reg to sever her left arm in order to prevent the poison from going further, in which he hesitantly complies. Riko stops breathing midway through the process, causing Reg to fall into despair. A mysterious rabbit-like being tells Reg to remain calm, guiding him to perform cardiopulmonary resuscitation and getting Riko to breathe again. Riko and Reg retreat to the hideout of the being, whose name is Nanachi. In the hideout, Nanachi begins patching up Riko's swollen left arm. Nanachi admits to watching and listening to Reg until Riko was badly injured ever since they both entered the Goblet of Giants. Reg is then introduced to Midi, a misshapen cat-like creature living with Nanachi, who reveals that both of them are hollows, young cave riders who have lost their humanity as a result of the curse of the 6th layer from the strains of ascension. Although Nanachi exhibits proof of surviving and retaining a semblance of humanity, Nanachi sends Reg off to fetch ingredients to heal Riko as well as to make Nanachi's dinner. Nanachi seems to recognize Liza's white whistle that Riko kept with her. Reg fetches a demon fish, the giant eggs of a hammerbeak, some yellow shining grass, and a shroom bear infected with parasitic water shrooms. Nanachi then sends Reg to clean Riko's clothes stained with blood and urine at the riverbank behind Nanachi's hideout. Reg walks among the eternal fortunes, which are perennial plants that grow fast, and a memory resurfaces of him standing by the gravestone with the blaze reap in the ground. While Riko is left alone, Midi begins to eye her. In Orth, Kiwi falls ill to a mysterious plague known as the birthday death disease, rumored to affect citizens on their birthdays. Jiro takes Kiwi to the caravan fleet, a boat anchored in the bay surrounding the abyss, for medical treatment. When Kiwi's symptoms suddenly disappear, pharmacist Mio muses that it reminded her of the bizarre curse of the abyss. Back in the abyss, Midi has apparently become emotionally attached to Riko, but Nanachi assures Reg that Midi will not harm Riko. After dinner, Nanachi uses a relic called a fog weave, a thin piece of cloth to demonstrate the true nature of the curse of the abyss. The force field is weaker away from the vertical shaft, and creatures like the orb piercer can predict the actions of their prey. During a training session with Nanachi in the Goblets of Giants, Reg comes across a Black Whistle Cave raider being attacked by the orb piercer. Thanks to Nanachi's instructions, Reg is able to chase off the orb piercer with the incinerator. Reg then asks the Black Whistle to tell Jiro that both he and Riko are continuing their adventure. When Reg returns, Nanachi surprisingly requests for Reg to kill Midi. Once Reg recovers from using the incinerator, Nanachi reveals that her and Midi were orphans brought to the abyss by the White Whistle Bondrude as subjects for his cruel experiments in a facility at the bottom of the 5th layer named Edo Front. Unaware of Bondrude's intentions, Nanachi and Midi were sent together down into the miniature garden of the dawn of the 6th layer called Capital of the Unreturned, and afflicted by the curse upon their ascension, leading to their current appearances making Midi immortal and Nanachi able to see the curse. After Bondrude attempted to kill Midi several times, Nanachi escaped with Midi but has since been unable to end her suffering herself. After hearing Nanachi's story, Reg ascends to Nanachi's request to kill Midi with her incinerator. After Nanachi bids a final farewell to Midi, Reg completely annihilates her, with Nanachi wailing in grief shortly after. Riko regains consciousness the next day, having pan-fried demon fish for breakfast with Reg and Nanachi. Riko recalls himself able to communicate with Midi in her slumber, and felt her soul being freed upon her death. After spending some time at a natural hot spring with Reg, and then having the parasitic water shrooms painfully removed from her left hand, Riko asks Nanachi to join the quest in finding Liza, in which Nanachi agrees before leaving the hideout. Riko, Reg, and Nanachi prepare preserved medicines, sort delving equipment, procure water-repellent materials, rehabilitate the arm, construct a support, and complete a new backpack. Meanwhile, their letter sent via mail balloon is eventually received by Nat and Shiggy on the surface. It is revealed that at Ido Front, Bondrude had been surveilling Midi and Nanachi through their life signatures. After seeing that Nanachi somehow manages to kill Midi, he anticipates her arrival. And that's the end of the video. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button while you're at it. And as always, I will see you in the next video.